Chapter 13, Independence Day. July 1st, Starshine's Independence Day. Dark clouds devoured the skies that morning. Ariel prepared for his Independence Day speech. He would have to stand in front of all of the citizens of Starshine and announce, "Today is a beautiful day, a day when life as we know it comes to an end." Well, for all of you, of course. Today is the day when Starshine becomes a member of my island nation, the Dark Islands, and all of you will die. Goodbye. Then the black hole monster would destroy the Starbright clock tower and then everything else. Everyone would die, for it was mandatory for everyone to attend. Finally, these islands will get what they deserve, he said to himself. He put on his tuxedo and stood in front of the mirror. He smiled. "Sir, Alexis is ready." Harold came through the doors. "Good. Hopefully she looks good for her last day on these islands." He laughed, then turned around and walked out of the room. He walked out of the front door and into his limousine. He sat there and went over his speech. He looked out the window. Alexis exited out of the doors. She wore a white evening gown. Her golden crown stood upon her head. She walked down the stairs to the limo. She opened the door and sat beside Ariel. "Don't cry, it'll ruin your makeup, and it'll do you no good," Ariel said. The engine started. The limousine started to drive down the street. They could see citizens walking towards Starbright City. "Everything is going according to plan," Ariel said aloud. "I can't believe you're doing this." Alexis looked into his eyes. "Believe it." Austin ran out the back door of the castle. He ran over to the street and to the port. He ran through the gate and onto the dock. He jumped onto a small motorboat. He jump-started the engine and drove away from the dock. Austin drove towards Starbright City in hope of getting there before Ariel's speech. The waves grew larger and larger the further he sailed. The black clouds stretched across the morning sky. He knew something bad was to happen. He raced to the dock. He turned off the engines and jumped onto the dock. He ran through the gate and hid behind a building near the Independence Day rally. He awaited the arrival of Ariel and Alexis. The limousine which held Alexis and Ariel drove across the bridge to Starbright City. The gate to the city opened and trumpets began to play joyful music. The citizens of Starshine were gathered around the Starbright clock tower. They rejoiced in the arrival of their princess. The limo pulled up to the stage in front of the tower. The chauffeur stepped out of the driver's seat. He walked over to Ariel's door. He flipped the handle up and pulled open the door. Ariel put his foot onto the ground. He stood up on both feet and waved to his future prisoners. They all cheered. The chauffeur walked to the other side of the vehicle and opened Alexis's door. Everyone cheered and chanted her name. Alexis turned around and walked around the limo. She greeted her people with a sad feeling in her heart. Ariel walked onto the stage and stood behind the podium. He spoke into the microphone. "Good morning, my dear people." There was a storm of applause. "Before my president's speech, Princess Alexis has a few words she wishes to recite to her people." Ariel stepped off the podium. He walked over to the chairs at the back of the stage. Alexis stood up and walked to the podium. "Good morning, my beloved citizens. It is a great honor to be your princess, as it was for my mother. Today we celebrate our nation's Independence Day." "As well as the nation's last day," Ariel said to himself. "Many years ago, there were many wars which were fought for this country's independence. But today we will also celebrate peace. I know that many things have judged our peace, but they will never take it away from us, because we are united and we will forever be united." She shouted with pride, but inside her heart was breaking. She stepped off of the podium. When her face was turned against the joyful citizens, she began to cry. Ariel stood up and walked over to her. You're done. Go sit in the limo. He walked over to the podium. Alexis stepped off the stage and sat down in the car. I'm sorry. Alexis isn't feeling too well today, he announced into the microphone. Now it is time for my president's speech. He cleared his throat. He took the index cards out of his coat pocket and placed his glasses in front of his dark eyes. Austin stepped in front of the building and tried to blend in with all of the citizens. Today is a beautiful day. A day when life as we know it comes to an end, Ariel began. What is he saying? People in the crowd asked each other. No, Austin said quietly. He turned around and ran to the blacksmith shop across the street. Ariel continued. Well, for all of you, of course. Today is the day when Starshine becomes a member of my island nation, the Dark Islands. But the good news for all of you is you won't even be alive to see it. There were many gasps that came from the crowd, followed by some screams and cries. Don't be alarmed. You will die quickly. I'm not the President Gustav you've known me as the past 3 years. I'm the King of the Dark Islands. Goodbye. Now, guards, start the fireworks. Ha! Ha ha! Goodbye, everyone. He ripped off his tuxedo to reveal his black cape. He ripped off his wig and mustache. He let out a loud laugh. Ladies and gentlemen, may I present to you the black hole? He shouted into the microwave. Into the microphone. Everyone screamed. One of the buildings lined beside the clock tower collapsed after being stormed over by the black hole. The massive tentacles slashed through buildings. Fireworks began to shoot into the sky from the rooftops of buildings. Everyone ran around, dodging the debris that flew all over the streets. Alexis looked out the window. Her eyes were overflowing with tears. No! No! No, no! 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 She shouted over and over again. She opened the door. Ariel stepped off the stage and ran to the limousine. Alexis tried to stop him from getting into the car. She grabbed the knife from the inside bar of the limousine. She swung her arm toward him, but a guard came up behind her and shoved her to the ground. Ariel stepped into the car. Have fun, Alexis, he shouted to her. The chauffeur stepped into the driver's seat. He started the engine and sped off. They drove to the port and immediately got on a ship to Ariel's kingdom. The boat departed and Ariel was away from the destruction his monster was causing. Austin ran out of the blacksmith shop. He glanced all over, looking for Alexis. He ran over to her, dodging the massive tentacles smashing into the buildings. Alexis, he shouted toward her. She turned around and stared into his eyes. She stood up and ran to him. Austin, she shouted over and over. They wrapped their arms around each other. Run, Alexis, run to the port. Get out of here. I'll take care of everything. You need to get away fast, Austin cried. But my people, I can't leave them here to die. I'm their leader, she explained to him, tears pouring out of her eyes. They'll be fine. I'll protect them. I'll destroy the monster. Run. I'll be fine. Okay, be safe. I love you. She turned around and ran toward the port. Austin held up his sword. He ran toward Black Hole. It had grown to be 50 feet tall. The tentacles had grown to be hundreds of feet long. The monster moved itself to the front of the clock tower. Happy 1st of July! Ha ha ha! Black Hole shouted.